Hey guys, it's been a little while since I've had time to sit down and put a video together. I've been traveling around a little bit. At the moment, I'm in Colombia. Quite a fun place to be. I was out here 4 years ago. I like it here quite a lot, actually. I thought I would share some lessons, like my journey, like my experiences as well, on earning $200,000 per month. As an introduction, I think the hardest part is actually getting to $10,000 per month. I really don't mean for that to come across in like a patronizing way at all. But the reason for that is because once you're at $10,000 per month, essentially the only thing that you have to do is figure out how do you scale from 10,000 to 100,000. You've already figured out a way to actually earn the money. You've already acquired the skill set, or you've built the systems, built the business. So you've already figured out a way of actually earning the, and it's much, much faster to figure out how to scale than it is to go about acquiring all of the skills that you need to make your first $10,000 per month. Like, one other point that I really noticed is that I actually get much more upset about wasting my time. You earn more money, like you look at your hours as being more valuable. At least I value my time at over $1,000 per hour. And it means that some of the very small things that can go wrong in like day-to-day life, where you're like waiting for things that pull my attention, or something wasting my time, an interruption happening in my life, ends up costing you like quite a lot of money, and it can be quite draining on your mind. At least that's what I find. So you can never have complete control over everything in life. But trying now, it becomes much more apparent to me, if I feel that I'm wasting time on something, it becomes much more annoying. I can feel the money like slipping away in my hands. Another kind of point at the start, I generally don't feel a sense of happiness by earning more money at the moment. If anything, it was all quite anticlimactic. To earn $1,000 was a goal of mine for a very long time, years in fact. It even sounded like pretty ridiculous when I first said it. It was something that I thought that I would never do. I wrote it down, and it was something that I wanted to achieve, but I just wasn't quite sure that it was possible. Regardless, it's been a very interesting journey. I feel it's worth sharing my kind of lessons, mistakes, and achievements. There's definitely been a mixture of all three. It has not been a case of jumping from one win to another. It has been very, like, yeah, up and down, and still is, even to this day now. So sorry about that background noise. So to start off with, I think just to give like a breakdown of income, so you have an understanding of where I'm coming from on some of these points. Currently, or let's go off like last month, so September, that would be, as that was a full calendar month, I would have earned about $150,000 from OnlyFans, between $50,000 to $60,000 from course sales, about $60,000 from consulting, about $10,000 from my agency, maybe a little bit more actually, maybe about 15K from the agency, but not much. And then $5,000 to $10,000 from like other income streams. So by other income streams, it can be anything from like affiliates, OnlyFans commission, like I get like a 5% override. It can be just like little things that I have going on, like little things here and there. Rule number one: think like someone who is where you want to be. This sounds like very simple advice, but I think most people really don't apply this in their life. I actually had a document that I would read every single day. I made a video on this before, and it said, think like someone who makes $100,000 per month. And that would be like a constant reminder that would pop up in my life, of me thinking, what would a millionaire be doing right now? Or if I'm dealing with a particular problem, what would a millionaire do in my situation? Or if I have some free time, what would someone who's making $100,000 per month be doing at this particular moment? Because it's not going to be watching Netflix or wasting time. So really get into the mindset of thinking like someone who is in a position of where you want to be. Just apply that to your own mind. What would a successful person be doing at this particular moment? If ever you feel a little bit lost, like, that's a question that I will always apply to myself. And of course, you can apply it to other things in your life. If you want to be extremely healthy or have a six-pack or whatever, you should be thinking, what would someone with a six-pack be doing right now? And make those decisions in your own life. Of course, it doesn't happen immediately. It doesn't happen like that. Just because you eat healthy for a couple of days, you're not going to have a six-pack. The same thing applies to money. But you're setting your ship in the correct direction, because you're making those correct decisions. And after a number of months, or however long it takes, after a specific period of time, your life will end up catching up with the direction of the decisions that you have been making over the previous period. So that's something to really keep in mind. Mike Tyson also said, it was a really good quote from Mike Tyson actually, that you have to be the champion before you become the champion, I think it was. So that means you have to be performing all of the activities that a world champion boxer would do in his case before he actually had the opportunity to go and compete in the tournament to actually win the title. Yeah, you have to go out and perform the activities like day to day and make sure that you become someone who makes $100,000 before your income actually catches up, if that makes sense. You need to be making and spending your time in the correct way, thinking like that type of person and performing the same activity as that type of person in order for you to have that type of life. Second kind of sub point on this is change your mindset. This was like a big one for me. Open your eyes to what is possible. There are people out here making obscene amounts of money. It doesn't really matter about your kind of personal situation. If you're watching this video now, I'm assuming that you have an internet connection and either a laptop or a smartphone. You have access to the tools and resources that are available to you. Whether you choose to take advantage of them or not is another thing, but you can also go out and watch some like YouTubers, like actual business people. You can learn from them. We've never had access to such like high quality information for free. And you can also watch like YouTubers or anyone else, in fact, like anyone that is like very successful. You should look at what they're doing and never look at it as they've got lucky. Try to reverse engineer what they've actually done, understand how they got to that particular point where they are. Sure, there's some lucky ones out there, but there's a ton of people out there that you can learn from, and I do so every single day. And also seek inspiration from these people who are pulling in millions of dollars per month. You should be looking at what they're doing and just open your eyes to there are people out there in the world who are living incredible lives, and don't think that it's not possible for you. You need to believe that you are able to achieve that type of life. And that starts off with your mindset by believing it's possible. You never achieve anything that you don't believe is. Rule number 2, acquire skills and apply leverage to them. Again, the world is surrounded by opportunity now, whether it's OnlyFans, whether you set up an agency, whether you're a freelancer, building a store, running a YouTube channel, selling Instagram pages, social media marketing, whatever it is, copywriting, it really doesn't matter. There's infinite opportunity out there, infinite ways to make money. I genuinely do believe OnlyFans is still like the easiest way probably to make money these days. I've never seen so many idiots, I think, for want of a better word, or not idiots, I shouldn't say that, low skilled people pulling in so much money. I have a perfect example of this. Like the other day, I had a guy that I was talking to in my DMs on Telegram who wasn't able to work out the most simple calculation. It was something like 900 plus 600, which it was like $1,500, and he was not for the life of him able to work out this calculation. And he is generating $60,000 per month through OnlyFans. He's not part of my course. He was reaching out to me about purchasing some stuff, and I was just in shock. I won't mention his name, but hopefully he doesn't see this either. But yeah, I was in shock that someone was not able to work out such a simple transaction, and yet they're pulling in $60,000 per month. And there's incredibly smart people out in the world who don't even make a fraction of that, even per year, that they perhaps make that or somewhere close to that. Yeah, acquire skills and then apply leverage to them. Also look for the easy opportunities that are available to you. There's tons of different businesses you can do and tons of different opportunities, but it doesn't make sense to choose like a hard option. Of course it doesn't. You want to choose something that is easy money, and I've definitely made that mistake a few times as well. I've known that there were easy opportunities for making money. For example, years ago in crypto, when crypto was really like picking up, I was very heavily involved in like the social media marketing space, and I was making great money. We were managing a company with 130 employees. On paper, it was very successful. We worked very hard on it, but I probably could have made a ton more money if I had stepped back from that and realized that other easier opportunities out there. So I also don't see any issue with kind of stepping back from a business to go and pursue another easier opportunity if something arises. I want to be where the easiest money is my kind of mindset. Rule number 3 is have multiple income streams, but don't focus on setting them up at the beginning. So I think everyone's heard of having multiple income streams. The average millionaire has 7 income streams, but I just want to make it clear, don't focus on setting them up straight away. Don't spread yourself out too thin at the beginning. Focus on like your core business. And I have always found that multiple income streams naturally started appearing anyway. Like even if you look at the income streams that I mentioned at the start of this video, They're all OnlyFans related things that ended up like popping up. So I started off with an OnlyFans agency, and then these other income streams started to develop during my journey on OnlyFans. So don't worry about setting up multiple income streams straight away, but when good opportunities do arise, particularly when they're in like related sectors and you can easily plug them onto your existing business, definitely pursue them. Even now, I literally have more opportunities, people reaching out to me to partner, request for my time than I would ever be able to fulfill. And these are like good offers for partnerships as well. Partnerships that a couple of years ago I would have killed for, I wouldn't have even thought were possible. I get these like coming in my inbox on an almost daily basis, but now I really have to be quite ruthless with my time, very protective over my time. So yeah, just make sure that you pick the best ones and focus on them. Don't say yes to everything. In fact, a good piece of advice is when you start seeing success and you start seeing a lot of requests for your time coming in, make your default answer a polite no. And you have to do that. Otherwise you end up getting pulled in too many different directions and you end up doing nothing. And again, I'm talking from first-hand experience on this as well. As much as sometimes it can feel bad or you feel like you're missing out on some of the opportunities that come across you, in the long term, it's 100% the right thing to do. Rule number 4, constantly reassess risk versus reward in your business and income streams. This is a mistake that I made very recently. Risk versus reward is like an ever-moving, ever-evolving balance of trying to make sure that you're balancing your risk versus reward, or making sure that the reward is completely worth the risk, right? But it changes based on your personal situation, based on the people around you, based on your industry, the economy, your financial situation. There's a ton of different variables at play here. And just because something was good before, something when you first started setting something up, it doesn't always mean it's going to be right for you, and it doesn't mean it's still good now. And this is something that you should reassess. For me, this has taken place a couple of times over the past few months. So when I first set up my agency, like the agency has always been the smallest income stream for me, by the way. When I say the agency, I mean like our outsourced marketing services. Now, at the start of setting everything up, everything was very smooth. On Tinder, for example, accounts would get banned, but the service delivery was like far more stable than it is now, and results were also just much easier to achieve. Of course, Tinder accounts got banned, but not quite as often. And even back then, like Bumble was pretty insane. Like we could set up a Bumble profile and pull in like 300 clicks without even doing any swiping. It would pull in about 10,000 likes within a day, which was, yeah, it was just insane. Of course, like the good times don't last. Tinder got progressively harder, which is what my kind of main focus. It's quite normal of anything Black Hat, and I'm used to it and used to solving problems and figuring out new ways of putting these strategies together and figuring out like workarounds to doing it. But building a subscription business on top of a platform that you have little to no control over, or in fact you're actively fighting against, isn't the best idea. So in August / late September, like I actually shut down a $30,000 per month income stream for me, refunded about $50,000 in payments as well, and just basically wasted a lot of time for myself and also ate the costs associated with that. And as much as that was a painful thing to do, and I complain about it now, my one regret is actually that I didn't do it a little bit sooner, as the risk actually had outweighed the reward for me a few months prior. Just I didn't take the time to analyze that. I already had my other income streams in place. I was already making great money. $30,000 didn't make a difference to my life, but it presented like a significant risk, both from a like reputational point of view and also just from being able to deliver the actual service. I knew it was getting harder and harder to do, and it was just a risk that wasn't worth me taking. Even to this day, Tinder does work and it is still profitable. Bumble also works exceedingly well for us. I use it across all of our models, but to offer it as a service and actively promote it as a service just isn't worth it. And I do feel that Bumble will be in the same place as Tinder in a few months. Quite simply, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Rule number 5, be a diverse and capable individual. By diverse, a diverse skill set. I'm a true believer it's 100 times more valuable to be skilled in multiple areas compared to being an expert in one. As an entrepreneur, by the way. Of course, if you're a doctor or an accountant, It's much better if you just specialize in one area. But as an entrepreneur, you need a very diverse skill set, and I believe it's 100 times more valuable to have experience in multiple areas, having a very diverse skill set. Like my background is also in growth hacking, which is like a unique skill set, a unique combined skill set of marketing, programming, conversion rate optimization, analytics, and psychology. And by having that skill set, it puts you in a very unique position. Companies are willing to spend a lot of money for someone who has that unique set of skills. You're essentially a one-man team or a one-man startup, and for example, I was always able to build businesses very, very fast. Over a weekend, for example, I could launch a company. Just if I had the inspiration on a Friday to do it, I could put together a website through custom code, set up marketing funnels and channels, acquire the customers, track everything, and then make improvements to the website and scale it. You're literally looking at a one-man startup, which is exceedingly valuable to companies. I believe that you should focus on acquiring a very wide set of skills rather than specializing in one. Don't worry about becoming an expert in one. I believe it's much better to be like a top 25% individual in 5 to 10 than being like top 1% in one skill. Of course, you can take that even further. Being top 5% across multiple skills is also exceedingly valuable as well. Top 3%, however you choose to cut it all up. But yeah, make sure that you have a diverse skill set. I think just makes you a very valuable individual. Having balance. Again, this is a mistake that I've made. In fact, I think I'm listing off more mistakes here than achievements. However, I do feel to achieve what I have done, I have sacrificed other areas in my life, and you have to. Of course, to earn insane amounts of money, you do have to be ruthlessly focused, which means you're being focused on that specific area of your life. My one real regret is not focusing on my own health, which is never a good idea. Right now, I'm getting back into the gym and training, and I'm actually happy to earn less money in order to feel better, more healthy, live longer. All the money in the world doesn't matter if you don't have your health. As well as that, over my life, I have managed to speak to a couple of billionaires and incredibly successful people, $100 million plus net worth individuals, or even watch on YouTube. In fact, like there's plenty of billionaires make YouTube. The one thing that I always notice in common is they're always quite obsessed with their health through as well their kind of like longevity. So it's always better to start sooner rather than later. And so that's what I'm focused on at the moment, is having more balance in my life, which is something that I always struggle with. I've always had quite an obsessive and addictive personality, which is good in some cases. I can get quite addictive and obsessive towards my goals, but it also means that I neglect other areas of my life. Rule number 7, don't expect money to give you happiness, but it does open doors and gives you opportunity. Money solves money-related problems, but it doesn't solve all problems. And it also doesn't necessarily give you freedom as well. Like I am now at a point that I have been able to achieve financial, time, and location freedom. I can go where I want, do what I want, and buy whatever I want, which wasn't always the case for me when I was earning a lot of money. You have to work to actually have the privilege of location and time freedom, and you have to do that by putting systems and teams in place, and also, like I said, saying no to opportunities, which is what I said earlier. If you always say yes to all of the opportunities that pass across your desk, you're never going to have any time freedom, and location freedom is very much dependent on the business that you work on, which was also another reason for me to remove my focus away from the agency. And I had already done that, but it was an agency that was based in Georgia in Eastern Europe, and I left there to go and leave for Dubai, and that was where things started falling apart. The systems perhaps weren't quite as strong as I had hoped for them to be, or like that I believe they were. And so they actually needed a lot more input from my side, which meant that the agency, like I said, again, the agency that only made me the smallest amount of income out of my acquisition channels, took the most of my time and also tied me down to one specific location. So the agency that earned the smallest amount of money for me restricted my time freedom and location freedom. Again, it was like another reason to add to like the list in like the risk versus reward situation that I mentioned earlier. But yeah, the other thing to note about having money as well is that you get very accustomed to the level of life that you have. It wears off. The novelty does wear off, and it wears off very fast. Kind of something like when you get a new car for 3 months, perhaps for a few months, you continue to enjoy it and really appreciate it. After a certain period of time, it wears off and it becomes the norm. And that's also not a good thing, because it means anything below a very high standard becomes a bad experience for you. I actually heard Dan Bilzerian talk about that before, and yeah, it's something that I've just starting to experience at this point in my life, let's say. So yeah, the novelty does wear off. However, I'll just finish the sentence by saying there is no doubt I would rather be rich than poor. If you have to choose between the two, it's a no-brainer. And rule number 8, and this is like the biggest one that I'm going to give you: learn how to learn. I've realized from the course and from our OnlyFans group, there are a lot of questions that get put into our kind of OnlyFans Telegram group that should very easily be solved with a simple Google search. And this made me realize that most people simply do not have an understanding of how to learn and how to gather information. I learned this through programming, in fact. For those of you who don't know, most programmers, in fact, pretty much all programmers, they do not retain the information up here. They have an understanding of code and how everything comes together, but there is just too much information through programming, too many different problems to solve, too many different things that kind of take place within programming that you simply cannot retain all of that information. And so you need to reference to things. And there's some very famous websites such as Stack Overflow, maybe many of you have heard of it, which is essentially an online directory almost of people who have frequently asked questions for programming. And it's a community where a developer will ask a question, they will put it on there, and then the community will go and answer them. Often the developer will get called an idiot and be told this has been answered 100 times before, but it works incredibly well. And the thing that you realize very quickly when you start learning programming is in almost every situation, particularly as a beginner, everyone has had the same problems that you have had. Everyone has been on that same journey. So if you're struggling on, how to write a function in JavaScript, if you literally just Google it, there's going to be someone who's had that issue before. Tens of thousands of people, in fact, who've had that issue before, and you can very easily find it and find the answer to your question. And so I learned that through programming, that the answer to all of my questions are available online. I just need to go and find it. But the same applies to everything else in life. Like, there are very, very few problems that you are dealing with currently as an individual that one of the 7 or 8 billion people on this planet hasn't dealt with before or hasn't had some experience in. And you can literally Google and find information on literally anything. So again, I don't mean for this to sound patronizing. I'm kind of in shock, or not even Google. You can read books on it, you can watch videos on it, you can listen to podcasts on it, you can listen to audiobooks on it. Whatever your preferred means of consuming content and information is, it is available to you. We live in a world where we are spoiled by information, and of course you have to through the wealth of information out there to find the true gems and the true valuable pieces of information. But that's like part of the game. But work on your ability to be able to learn and be able to acquire skills. So what I would always do is, whenever I had a problem in my business, and the way that I actually learned how to do most things that I do now, I essentially self-taught myself everything. But when I say self-taught, I mean I researched it online, understood how to do it, and developed it and applied it into my own life, into my own businesses, into my own experiences. And so one of the thing that I probably do mostly every single day isn't scrolling through Instagram, is Googling. Like, whenever a thought pops in my mind, an idea that I have, I will either write it down or I'm going to Google it to research more information on it. And most of my time is spent on acquiring more information based on the specific problems or the specific challenges, or mostly the specific problems I want to solve in my business and in my life. You can very easily learn from other people's experiences, which is exactly what you're doing now. I've documented some of the highlights and the key mistakes and lessons I have learned from in growing my businesses and my income to $250,000, and hopefully you have found this valuable. Maybe you've taken some notes, maybe I've inspired you a little bit or given you some ideas in things that you can apply in your own business. Maybe some of the mistakes that I made, and trust me, like, I paid significantly for the mistakes that I made, both through lost income would be probably like the biggest one, and also stress, that hopefully you can learn from my mistakes, and maybe you notice that you're doing some of the things that I realized I did wrong, and you can reassess recalibrate your compass, let's say. Other than that, thank you so much for watching. I really do hope that this was insightful and interesting. Like I said, over the next month, I'm taking a bit more time to focus on myself. I'm actually doing like a mushroom trip in this weekend, and I'm currently going through like a 3-day detox. It's going to be about 10 years since I've done any mushrooms, actually. But yeah, just to open my perspective a little bit and really think about what is it that I want to achieve out of life, because I've come to realize that I just don't see that much happiness out of earning more money. It's nice, but it doesn't give me any kind of deep sense of fulfillment. So I'm currently detoxing from the mushroom trip I'll be doing this weekend to analyze what do I really want to achieve, what are the things that really matter most for me. And to be honest, I really think it's about helping people. One of the things that does give me the most satisfaction and most joy at the moment is I literally got a message the other day from a guy just saying, look, you've changed mine and my brother's life just from like sharing the information and kind of opening our eyes to the opportunity that's out there. And when you get messages like that, another one I have was a guy who has quit his job through OnlyFans, through a model he was managing. They're things that really do actually give a sense of satisfaction, a deeper sense of satisfaction, let's say. Having money hit my bank account, like, is nice, but again, it just wears off. Yeah, that's where I'm at. As always, thank you so much for watching. I do hope that this video was insightful and delivered some value to you.